What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us live here on Infinity Sports. We are going to kick things off. It's a big show today. We're very excited about it. So we're just going to jump right into the video intro, and then we're going to let you guys know what's going on. You should already know by now because we've had a week and a half of promotion. So if you don't, then stick around and you'll find out.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.
Jordan. Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Drives one out to deep left field. This one's got a chance to get out of here. Gone! 3-run Jimmy Jack first big league home run for Mike Trout.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
And an 81-point game. 55 in the second half. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed the second greatest scoring performance in NBA history.
What's going on, everybody? Like I said, thank you for joining us. I'm Wayne G. I'm joined, as always, by Sully.
Yo, what's poppin'?
As he's got a flashy new background, just like we have here. It came in, so we actually are uniformed now. Again, like I said, thank you for watching. If you are watching, it is most likely on either YouTube Live or Facebook Live. If you miss any part of the show, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Amazon Music, as well as find a replay of the video show on YouTube. We are on Mondays and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Wednesdays are typically our interview day, which we'll get to. If you want to reach out to us, we are at Infinity Sports Podcast on Facebook, at Infinity Sports Podcast on Instagram, and at Sports Infinity 5 on Twitter. You can visit infinitysportspodcast.com. All of our links to social media are there, as well as links to our shows. And you can visit the store and purchase Infinity Sports apparel, 12 is greater than 9 apparel, and the Sully collection, which Jesse thinks is getting old. So definitely visit the website, visit the store, support the show, give us a shout out. We have some questions today from you guys, from the fans. We're going to post those. And obviously, if you submitted a question and we post it up here, you're going to get credit. There's going to be a photo of you along with the questions. So you are getting into the show. So definitely interact with us because we do enjoy it. As I mentioned, big show. Wednesdays is our interview day. We haven't had one in a couple of weeks, but we do have a really big one this week. It is William Gates. He was one of the subjects of the movie Hoop Dreams, 1994-95. This comes out at much acclaim, Sundance Film Festival. I think it might have even won an Academy Award or been nominated for an Academy Award. And we're very excited to have William here to talk about his experience. Before we bring him on, this interview is brought to you by Invader Coffee, 100% organic, 100% air roasted, 100% money back guarantee if you don't like it. It is a veteran-owned business, so please support the troops and those who protect our freedom to drink coffee. If you enter the code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off of your order. So, did your order come in yet?
It hasn't. So it should be here this week, though. So I'm hoping I get it before I leave for work, but it's not looking like it.
All right. Well, definitely place your order, 15% off. We mention it every week. Why pay full price when you can get a discount? That said, let's bring on our guest, William Gates. Thank you so much for joining the show. We're very excited to have you on.
Man, glad to be here, man. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, no problem at all. Like I said, I definitely wanted to reach out to you. Hoop Dreams is actually one of my top 5 basketball movies of all time. I have, White Men Can't Jump is my number 1. A lot of people have Hoosiers, but I think White Men Can't Jump, Hoosiers, Blue Chips, Hoop Dreams, then Above the Rim I have in there as well. So Hoop Dreams makes the top 5, and I don't know. I don't have it as a question. I'm kind of kicking off before we even start with the actual questions, but I'm just curious, how you feel. I mean, I'm sure you're a basketball fan like myself. You probably watched a lot of basketball movies. How do you feel Hoop Dreams stacks up with other basketball movies?
I think we're right there, just like you said. One of the top movies to ever come out, but I think what the difference is, I've seen a lot of polls. People put us like number 1 through 5. I think where Hoop Dream stands is more because it has such a realness to it. Well, it is real, and what it does is it's not the Hollywood type situations. You're dealing with real life. So when it comes to it being a movie, I almost say we're not a movie, we're a documentary because it's real life. I even prefer to us like the first reality show in a sense. So, but I'll put us up there in terms of sports movies. We're there.
All right. I know that Sully actually hadn't seen the movie when we booked you as a guest, and I was like, you have to go watch this movie. I said, it is one of my all-time favorite basketball movies. It is one of the best basketball movies of all time. And like you said, it's a documentary, and I think of a lot of these 30 for 30s coming out now, and I feel like it's almost like an elongated 30 for 30. I actually feel like, though, it's so big in basketball pop culture that Hoop Dreams, it's a 2-hour plus movie, but it could have its own 30 for 30 on ESPN as well about the whole video.
You know, I agree with you. And Sully, I won't hold that against you, man. I won't hold that against you. But you're right. Small, interesting fact right now. Before the 30 for 30 was done, we actually were in talks with ESPN, actually kind of doing a Hoop Dreams weekly TV show almost, where it would just play off of the movies. And for whatever the reasons, it didn't work out. And then they came out with the 30 for 30s after that. But yeah, it was going to be a Hoop Dreams weekly kind of drama kind of show that ESPN wanted to do. So, but yeah, man, first of all, I love the 30 for 30s. I think they're amazing. But yeah, you could do one for Hoop Dreams, because one thing I tell people is that, yeah, it's a 2.5-hour movie, close to 3 hours. Let's say that 3 hours, but they shot over 500 hours of film. So there's still a lot more that didn't get seen than did get seen.
I'll tell you what, watching it for the first time, it doesn't play as a 3-hour movie. Like, you're not sitting there like, God, this thing's dragging. Like, it really doesn't. It plays much shorter. So don't go into it thinking like, oh man, it's 2.5. Like, for people who haven't watched it, I'm telling you, it plays much shorter because it's got a ton in it. Like he says, like, there's so much stuff. It's so interesting. So I loved it. I was late to the game, but I mean, I'm glad I got there eventually. I'll tell you what.
Right. Hey, the ticket was still good when you got there.
Exactly. Thankfully, they still took it, man. I was still able to sit,
All right. So, yeah, we have a bunch of questions. I'm going to put them up here on the screen. And then we have some fan questions at the end, which were submitted via social media. People who said they had some questions for you. The first question we have for you is, I have, how were you chosen for the film? And I asked because I obviously watching an interview with Arthur. Arthur said that, he goes, man, these two white guys set up cameras outside the park. We're playing, and we're like, they're going to get robbed. He goes, so we went over to talk to them. He goes, and they said, oh, we're just doing like a PBS special for like 30 minutes. We're going to do a thing about, kids who play in the inner cities. And I guess, Earl Smith was in the beginning of the film and towards the end that he had kind of seen this potential. Like, hey, why don't you guys do just a documentary following Arthur? And, kind of that's how he got into it. But I'm curious how you were approached by the filmmakers.
Arthur's right. He was chosen before I was. But mine's kind of played out kind of like how you see it in the movie. When Arthur was playing against Isaiah Thomas, I was already enrolled at St. Joe's, or I was at that basketball camp, but I had not committed to the movie yet. Interesting enough, my coach, Gene Pingatore, who sometimes has the villainous role in the movie, actually made the introduction to me, and was saying, hey, I got this kid coming in from the inner city of Chicago. If you're looking for somebody to go see kids who go from street ball to organized basketball, this might be the kid you want to look at. And of course, they approached me. And after that, I'm a 14-year-old kid. Of course, I said yes immediately. But then I thought about it and said, no, we might need to ask my mom and my brother and get their permission. And like 2 days later, they were at the house. And I got the same story as Arthur. 3 white guys showed up at my house. And I still kid them about this to this day. 3 white guys show up in the neighborhood in a jalopy. I mean, that thing, I said, y'all making sure y'all car don't get stolen, or if it does, you don't care that they took it. They might be doing you a favor. But yeah, it kind of just flowed out that way. I mean, I after the Isaiah Thomas playing Arthur, probably that Tuesday, I was set to go. I was involved with the movie.
Sully has a question here.
Yeah. So how did you get introduced to St. Joe's, recruited there? Like how did you end up at St. Joe's itself?
I tell you, now that's an interesting story there. So my grade school coach, at the time I was playing, really well basketball wise, and he submitted my name out to all of these big time schools in the city, whether they were public schools or private schools. Well, public schools couldn't necessarily mess with you because of a district kind of thing. So you either went to school in your district or you went to a private school. Well, all the private schools began to show up and watch me play. Then one day we were getting ready to play. The game got forfeited, but one of the St. Joe's assistant coaches was there. And I was just playing around, doing nothing. He was getting ready to leave because there was no game. He's like, I wasted my time. I don't even know if this kid can play. Out of the blue, I'm standing under the basket. I go up and just dunk it backwards. He calls me over and said, you wouldn't happen to be William Gates, would you? I said, yeah, that's me. He said, did you just dunk the ball right under the basket? I said, yeah. He said, can you do it again? I said, yeah. So I go back over, stand right under the rim, boom, dunk it again backwards. He calls me back over and he says, listen, take this number, give it to your coach. We're going to be calling you in 2 days. And next thing I know, in about a week, I was out visiting St. Joe's. And I kid you not, man, they had me hook, line, and sinker because what they did was they walked me right past the Isaiah Thomas trophy case. So he in there, man, he got the USA uniform on, the 1986 MVP trophy from the All-Star game is in there. And the first thing I said, man, Isaiah Thomas went here? I'm like, I'm from the inner city. He's from the inner city. He made the league. Maybe that could happen for me. So I was sold the first day I walked up in there simply because Isaiah Thomas went there.
That actually segues perfectly into the next question. And I apologize, Sully, if I step on yours. I know there's a couple. We have two in a row. Okay.
You're good.
Why not? Because they talk in the movie, you and Arthur travel an hour and a half to get to St. Joe's every day. And I'm like, why not Simeon? Why not Whitney Young? Like, why travel all the way out to St. Joe's? But that kind of explains, it was the Isaiah Thomas connection.
It's the Isaiah Thomas connection, but also the district issue. So if you didn't live within a certain district, you couldn't go to that school. So I wouldn't even have qualified to go to the school, go to Simeon or one of the other big inner city schools. And one of the reasons the city of Chicago started doing that, because guys were transferring schools and going to play with their friends, and they were stacking teams. So the city was trying to make the game more competitive or keep it competitive by making sure that if you lived in a certain district, you went to your district school. So, and in my district, I think it was 3 schools: Wells, Lincoln Park, and Near North at the time. And my older brother, all my brothers actually played at Wells High School and did extremely well there. Just said, hey, if you're willing, go to St. Joe's because you'll have a better chance of fulfilling your dream out there.
I was going to say, because in the movie they mentioned that, when Arthur makes it to the state tournament, he plays against King High School, and they mentioned that King had some very kind of shady recruiting styles about getting these elementary kids, and I was like, oh, I wonder if they reached out to William. I'm like, hey, man, come to King.
You always hear the talk, when you transfer, you're willing to transfer, but the reality is that, again, because of district rules, and even for schools like King, I think more so what they were talking about is guys moving in and living with their friends and then being able to go to that school. So it wasn't necessarily that they were out there illegally recruiting per se, but they were, if you're my buddy, you my boy, hey, you come live with me Monday through Friday and go to school.
I'll tell you what, that still happens to this day. So that's nothing new, and that ain't going away because we still got zoning and district issues, at least down here in Florida, and we do the same thing. I used to coach soccer, and we had a kid live with his aunt just so he could come to our school and things like that. So, yeah. All right, so now Arthur Ainge says, if I were the bigger prospect, they'd have found some way to keep me at St. Joe's. Now, that's quoted from him. Do you agree with that statement, or?
I agree to a certain extent that because he sometimes when I hear that, because this is not the first time I've heard that question, oftentimes I say it was really more not if he was the bigger prospect, but because they had guards that played the level that he was playing. I think that kind of worked against him. But the other thing was too, to be honest with you, I don't know why they chose me over Arthur. Now, obviously, because I went and played varsity right away. I was a bigger kid. I was stronger. But at that time too, when I went to St. Joe's, here's the thing that St. Joe's was ran like a mini college. When I got to St. Joe's as a freshman, St. Joe's was number 3 in the nation, number 1 in the state, and number 1 in the city. So they were looking for already ready, not necessarily let me help you get ready. Now, if you come up through the system and through the program, then they could work with you like that. But particularly when I was there, I mean, when I went into St. Joe's, man, my front court was 6'7", 6'9", 6'5". I mean, and they were all staters already, and I was a freshman. I remember saying that first practice, and I was saying, where am I? This is not high school basketball. Where they growing this big at? I just think also too the situation with Arthur and St. Joe's, it was unfortunate, and I always tell people this too. I wanted Arthur to stay there because I was the only guy I knew. I mean, when he left, I didn't have any friends in terms of that I knew that I would hang out with. I mean, that was my road dog. We rode the train together. We rode the bus together. We ate lunch together. I mean, it was him and me, the whole time.
I felt like where it was a fair question was, I think of the movie Blue Chips, right? When Shaquille O'Neal first meets Nick Nolte, and he says, Neon, I'm just trying to get you into college. And he says, if I couldn't play ball, would you be trying to get me into college? No.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it's a similar type of situation. Like if you can help this program, if you're going to start varsity, like you said, then yeah, we'll find some scholarship or something for you to help out. But if you're just a JV or a freshman team guy, like why are we going to, go out of our way to keep you here when we can bring in somebody that's more ready right now?
Absolutely. And here's the thing. Again, it's unfortunate. And I think that's what made Hoop Dreams so powerful, because it shows the impact that it has on the individual life, the kid, just trying to live his own hoop dreams or just trying to live life dreams. So I think, it's unfortunate that it happened, but I'm glad that the movie caught it to show it. So now that awareness is out there that, this game, you can't play with kids' life, because again, at the same time too, you never know how things are going to work out. I mean, when you look at the other end of the spectrum, Arthur goes downstate. He gets, he recovers and does extremely well, basketball wise. So sometimes we do got to just slow down and let things evolve too, though.
So let me segue real quick for this one. And this one is maybe the one you don't answer. Who's the better basketball player?
Oh, man, I can answer that. I was the better basketball player.
Oh, all right.
I have no problem with that. I mean, I was dunking in 7th grade. I mean, when I went to St. Joe's, I was ready. I knew I was ready to play as a freshman. And I remember when Coach Ping, I had played 3 games with the JV team because I didn't play varsity right away. I played 3 JV games. We was playing in a Thanksgiving tournament. And I averaged like 50 points a game. And that 3rd game, after the game, Coach said, listen, I don't normally do this, but I'm going to pull you up to varsity. Interesting enough, that whole week, I still practiced with the JV and I practiced with varsity that whole week. I mean, in JV, the way it ran, you practice from 2:30 to 4:15. Varsity practice was from 4:30 to 7:30. So, and I did that for a week. And I remember going to coach and said, man, why am I still, am I on varsity? Am I not on varsity? Because I don't want to keep practicing with JV and then I got to give you max effort, with varsity. I said, I don't got that much energy in me, but I did it, but yeah, I was the better player.
See, I did that for a whole season, my sophomore year. We called them crossover players. So, I sat the bench for the varsity, but they wanted me to get playing time, so they started me on the JV team. But like you said, I had to be at both practices. So I'm like, I just ran suicides an hour ago.
That's right. That's right. Already got yelled at. Already took the punishment. Already played the team price. One guy mess up, we all mess up. I did that already for about 2.5 hours.
All right. Did you have one more on that this section?
Oh yeah. Sorry. So the schools here that ask these inner city kids to come play, and then they don't take care of their tuition. You know what I mean? And they kind of leave it up to these inner city kids, knowing that they can't actually do it. I mean, I view that as incredibly irresponsible. Do you view it as irresponsible, or more of just unfortunately kind of a business decision, which is terrible to say because it's these kids' futures and it's their schools and things like that. But I don't know. How do you see it?
No, I look at it as terrible.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, even with the Arthur situation, at the end of the day, whether they thought that he could play or not, once you bring a kid into your program, you leave that kid in your program. Exactly. I mean, I can't even imagine, uprooting your life, making transitions, families making sacrifice, and then all of a sudden they don't see the value in you that they once saw. That you're talking about demoralizing it and
young kids too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
When they're so impressionable, it's like
yes. So whether he could bounce a ball or not, if you tell that kid, which they did, they said, hey, if you come here and you commit here and you do the things we need you to do, I'm going to guarantee you that you're going to get, go play basketball somewhere. He wouldn't guarantee the level you'll play at, but he said, I'm going to guarantee you're going to play basketball somewhere. So to me, that's a commitment to that kid, to his family, that not only am I going to see you through basketball-wise, but academically-wise, because I know the two coexist. And again, that didn't happen for Arthur, and that's not happening for a lot of kids, like you were just saying, that's playing basketball right now. What I found that's really interesting is it's amazing how they'll take even just, a semester of greatness, even though they know that, families can't afford it, but to get that semester of basketball out of them or get that whole school year basketball for that state championship run, they'll do that, where it sacrifices the kids' morality. And I just think that's their morale. I just think that's terrible.
And I do think it's unfortunate. I do think it's irresponsible to put these kids in that situation and make those promises. But what I think is absolutely despicable was St. Joe's holding Arthur's grades until he paid. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, and I just got to put it out there like this, and don't get me wrong, man, I love St. Joe's. If any St. Joe's person watching this, I love the school because they were amazing to me. So I'm not going to take anything away from St. Joe's, anything away from Coach Payne. God rest his soul. He passed away last year. So I'm not going to, they were tremendous for me. But for Arthur's situation, man, that should have been handled completely different. Give him his transcripts. Let him and his family go. The decision was already made that he was no longer going to be a part of, the school, institution. Let him go. Give it to him. Because, let's just be honest. At the end of the day, if he couldn't afford the tuition, they definitely weren't going to be able to, and I'm just speaking for me now. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have paid it. No. If I'm not there,
no way.
What am I paying it for? I'm not,
And I had that very thought. Yeah, when they said, we're going to put you on a 12-month plan, and if you show us good faith for 2 months, we're going to release your transcripts. I would have said after that second payment, I'm out. Good.
Yeah, dude, never paying another payment.
And that's what happened.
Good.
But but my thing is this. For me, I thought that was just the least they could have done.
Of course.
Yeah. Now, you had alluded to it earlier, and obviously that's Coach Pingatore is represented somewhat in this film as the villain, or as the antagonist in the film. But I didn't take – that's how he's depicted by some people who've talked about it. I didn't see it that way. He's a tough coach. He's a very hard-nosed coach, old school. So I saw that. But even, when you got injured, I felt like when they show the scene when he's like, William, I think that you should wait until next year. And you're like, no, I'm not waiting until next year. I want to play now. And he was like, if you feel any sort of discomfort, you should be hanging it up. And I felt like he was trying to – and I understand, kids are kids. We're dumb when we're kids. And we just want to do stupid stuff. But I did feel like he was trying to protect you. I didn't feel like he was the bad guy. And so my question for you was kind of just towards the end of the film, right? You have that awkward kind of exit scene where you're like, Coach, just give me your number so I know not to answer it and I won't donate money to you. And there's definitely some sort of animosity there. But I have seen you say since that, you kind of, as you got older, more mature and able to look back, you're like, you know what? He really was just – looking out for me. He wasn't a bad guy. I was curious if you could talk a little bit more to that because people who see the film for the first time, he can come across as like the bad guy in the film.
Right. No, you're right. The way that I present it to people is that I was a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid. I was rebellious. I was upset. I was angry. Things didn't go my way at times. So what do 15, 16, 17-year-olds? We pout. We complain. We get upset, and it probably showed a lot when I was on the camera when they would ask me questions about Coach Ping. I didn't like the way he treated me. No, I didn't like the way he yelled at me. I mean, I'm again 15, 16, 17. I'm going to say those things, but in retrospect, I've always said this about Coach Pingatore. Nobody has taught me the game of basketball more than him. He's probably the greatest coach I've ever had. And I'm not just saying that because, coaches passed, but in terms of just getting me ready to play, I walked into Marquette University ready to play. I understood defensive position. I understood plays. I could get up to the board and I could write out a play in X and O's and I could diagram and I can tell guys, hey, you need to be here. And, I even remember playing at Marquette. We were running down the court and we're doing plays and guys would say, Will, where am I supposed to be? Like I was that guy that knew everybody's position. That's because that's what Coach put into me. So you're right. It was a misrepresentation. And one of the things I think outside of the Arthur situation from the misrepresentation is that people hear this scene when Coach and I have this conversation where, they say, you hear him say, just write them off. Coach wasn't saying write it off like, get rid of your family, get rid of your girlfriend, get rid of your daughter, because the reality was, even at that time, who people think I was going to get diaper money from? It was Coach Pingatore. that was, buying Pampers and Huggies and stuff like that because he was there. He did understand, and he still wanted me to be successful in life. I think where the miscommunication between Coach and I came, not from our off-the-court stuff, but our on-the-basketball court stuff. And it's just like the situation you were referring to. I often wondered, should I have set out? Should I have listened? But again, I felt like from where I grew up at and where I was coming from, everything was riding on me playing. So I was trying to figure out as best as I could to get back out there. Now, do I wish he would have been a little bit more saying, you know what, William, as much as it hurts me, I want you out there. We need you. But I'm not going to let you play. Because Coach had that kind of authority. He could have just said, no, I'm not going to let you play. And let me pout and cry and whine all I want to. But again, at the end of the day, man, Coach Payne, that was my guy. He taught me the game like no other. And there were times I hated him for it because I'm like, man, why you always getting on me? And he would say, man, when I stop getting on you, that means I don't like you. I said, boy, I sure hate to see you in love with me, what that feels like.
Well, and you could even say that, coming from an inner city background, there's usually not a whole lot of authority growing up, right? And so when you get into that situation where you're getting this authority hard, it can be disjarring. And I think as you get older, it becomes harder and harder to accept that if you've never had it. So I would even go as far as to say that if Isaiah hadn't played for Coach Pingatore, he might have flamed out with Bobby Knight. I don't know if he would have played for him.
Probably would have, because Bobby Knight was, he was 10.0 times Coach Payne. So you're absolutely right. I think with I grew up in a good family. I did like the after school programs, but it was nothing like with Coach Payne. I remember a situation when I was walking down the hallway and there was a piece of paper on the floor. And man, Coach stopped me, grabbed my arm, punched me in the shoulder. I said, Coach, what you hit me for? He said, didn't you see that piece of paper? I said, what piece of paper? He said, oh, you saw it. He said, why didn't you pick it up? I said, why would I pick a piece of paper? I said, I ain't put it there. He said, this is your school. He said, this is your responsibility. Take care of your school. He said, it says a lot about a person who don't walk over trash but pick up the trash and throw it away. Because that's exactly what he did. He bent down, he picked it up, and put it in the trash can, just like that.
So, Dean, I think you have is you on the next one?
Yeah, this one's me. Yeah. All right, so don't take this as a shot now. All right. Now, do you feel like you played to your competition in high school? But what I mean by is at the Nike camp, packed with all the stars, you ball out. I mean, you ball out. And then at St. Joe's, you're only averaging like 15 to 17 a game when theoretically you probably should be averaging, 25, something like that. Do you feel like you played up to certain levels and played down at St. Joe's or because you had a bunch of talent around you or what was it?
No, you had to look at it this way. St. Joe's, we did have a lot of talent, but I was one of the top talents. The way the game is played at St. Joe's, we were Indiana. We were 5 passes. We were back cuts, side screens. This was the most organized basketball I have ever played in my life. I mean, this was not how you see it today. You come across half court, you pulling up for a three. We were running sets. I mean, the only time you really got to showcase a lot of your talents, and I remember Coach used to tell me this, when the playoffs started, it didn't matter. So that's when you see, like, when I'm playing against Gordon Tech and all these other schools, you go like, okay, this dude is pretty good. Because then he would come to me and say, William, it doesn't matter how we win. We just got to win now. So do what you need to do. But the first 25 games, back screen, side screen, down screen. I mean, we running shell drill for 3 hours. I mean, that's the system he put in place. But when playoffs came, he let me play. He let me do what I needed to do.
So what do you think you would have averaged if you got to run like a ISO scheme there or something like that? Which I know you could have never run. Don't get me wrong, but think if you could have run an ISO scheme there, what do you think you would have averaged?
Oh goodness, I probably could have averaged easily 30, 35 at St. Joe's.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Easy.
Yeah,
Easy.
that's what I wanted to hear.
I mean the 15 to 17 points I was getting, that was on maybe 8 or 9 shots.
Yeah.
If that, So even at St. Joe's, I can say this. There were times we were losing and Coach Payne still would pull me to the side and say, William, we got to win. So I did have those games at St. Joe's where I scored 47, 41. I remember having a 50-point game. So there were times when he just said, hey, man, I need you to take over. Because, he wanted, it's kind of like how I almost like St. Joe's. We were a high school version of kind of like Kentucky. Like, we were so good that our whole starting 5 had high major Division I scholarships. And then the guys who played behind us all had high mid-major Division I scholarships, and they barely touched the floor but coaches would recruit them and say, man, you guys must be really good because the guys y'all playing against, they so great, y'all can't even touch the floor. So it was that's just how it was back in those days.
Well, even now in some of the prep schools, like I live here in New Hampshire, and we have can't remember the name of it. It's a New Hampton Prep. So New Hampton Prep, we had Rashad McCants went there and guys like that. And what's funny is that those guys, like you said, like a guy like a Max Owens, who went to North Carolina. Max Owens averaged 6 points a game there, I think, and goes to North Carolina on a full ride because it's just one of those schools where the 12th guy is a Division I basketball player.
That's right. Because if he was at any other program, he probably would have been the man averaging 25 points a game. Easy.
The next section I have here for you, is this one mine or yours, Dan?
This one's yours for Marquette, right?
Okay, yeah. So playing at Marquette, so this is one of the things that I always think is funny is there's a scene in the film where Bo Agee, Arthur's dad, says, I was a good high school player. I could have played in college, maybe pros, right? And I don't know how many adults you hear say stuff like this. And so I'm just thinking about yourself. Obviously, you were a really highly recruited high school basketball player. You go to a Division I program, and I'm curious to talk about that jump in competition from the high school level, which was, like you said, 12 guys going to college. From that level, though, to 12 guys who are in college.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you this. My first reality of college basketball actually had nothing to do with college basketball. I remember we were at a orientation at the school, and I remember seeing Coach Kevin O'Neal walking in the area, and he comes up to me and he says, "Man, Will, so glad you're here, man. It was an honor, it was a privilege recruiting you." And then immediately after that, he says, "Now it's your responsibility to stay here." My mind, as a high school kid, had not comprehended what he was talking about. What do you mean? It's my responsibility to stay here. Isn't that built in? I mean, I could lose this. I mean, what are you talking about? I mean, that's immediately where my mind went. So that jump for me made me recognize that, oh gosh, I got to secure some things here. I'm not as secure as I thought I was going to be. So I need to figure this thing out. And so, of course, man, I didn't miss nothing. I was at all the practices, the open gyms, whatever it was, I was there participating in it, trying to learn the college system. And I'm going to tell you this, I thought them guys that I played against in high school was great. But let me tell you, my first week at Marquette, we're playing against the Milwaukee Bucks because they used to come down and use our gym and work out with us. So, because, we shared the same arena. So, and I'm going in there and I'm like, here's Alvin Robertson DMing me up. I'm like, come on, man. I'm a freshman. So that was like my introduction to, college basketball. It was like, if you want to get to this level, you got to figure out how to play against a guy like Alvin Robertson. So that was my intro. Yeah, which, by the way, after that, he took me to get some pancakes too, though.
Hey, there you go.
Pancakes or waffles guy, William?
Man, oh gosh, it depends on the day.
Really?
It depends on the day, yeah. I can go. I'm 50-50.
I'm a waffles guy. If you're giving me both options, I'm a waffles guy, man.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Depends on the day. AAU, I'm straight waffles because that's all they got is the waffle machine.
Now, one of my questions here about going to college too. First of all, I loved in the film when the coaching staff came to you and basically said, "Listen, William, this is how bad we want you. If you choose Marquette, you're here for 4 years. You're going to get your degree. All right. If you get hurt your senior year of high school, we're not yanking your scholarship. We still want you to come to Marquette." And I thought, especially nowadays, and I don't know if it's different back then, but a lot of times, kid gets hurt even while he's in school. A sophomore year of college gets hurt, scholarship gone. They give it to somebody else. Yep. And I thought it was really nice of them to say that. Like, listen, William, we want you to get your degree here, regardless of whether you play a single game or not.
You know what? That actually sold me more on Marquette than anything was their commitment to me outside of the game of basketball. I mean, first of all, I would have been crazy to turn that down. You just don't. And not only did they live by that, they proved it because my junior year, when I set out and I didn't play, we got a new coach in, and that new coach didn't say, "Hey, Will, I know you're a senior, whatever the case may be, but you're going to have to go find another school to play at." No, I finished up at Marquette.
Yeah, I thought that was great. Yeah, that's all I really had for that section. Let me just see what I have here. Is this one's yours, Sully?
Yeah, this next one, yeah. All right. So, Afterlife, you became a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious this is a huge what if. Marquette pans out differently. You go to the NBA. Do you think you find faith in the same way? And your path leads you back to being a pastor after the NBA? Or I understand that's a big gap, but, and are you kind of comfortable and happy with where you are with being a pastor instead of doing the NBA and things like that?
I think the path would have eventually led me back there. Interesting enough, it runs in my family. My grandfather was a pastor, okay. So it wasn't like walking into ministry was this foreign. Yeah. Like, hey, he's not playing ball. What can I do in life? Oh yeah, go be a pastor. No, that wasn't that wasn't the situation. It was more that I just think it was the calling on my life. I think if I would have made the league, I wanted to play in the league, man, something terrible, and I would have played it as far as it would have been allowed for me to play. Mm-hmm. But I can say this: becoming a pastor, and especially going back to my community in Cabrini in Chicago, being able to pastor back in that community probably meant more than playing in the league. I can't tell you the amount of people that I had the opportunity to reconnect with, watch their children grow, lifelong relationships that people claim on Facebook. I was having it for real. People you hadn't talked to in years, and all of a sudden you connect with them on Facebook, but I was seeing them in person and close up. And, for a lot of them, man, I buried their mothers and their fathers, and I did their weddings and dedicated their children. So it was so rewarding to be a part of that human aspect of life that many people don't get an opportunity to be a part of.
It's amazing to hear. That truly is amazing to hear.
This is where you get 2 in a row, right?
Yeah. Now, before that happens, you get the call. Well, I don't know if you get the call. Did MJ call you personally for this workout in 2001 for the comeback?
No, he didn't call me personally. His trainer did. Okay. His trainer called me, and then Mike will call me after that. So, but his trainer, Tim Grover, mm-hmm. said, "Hey, Will, man, listen, I want you to come down to play. We're playing at noon. I hear you working out. I hear you trying to make a comeback. Come over here and work out with us." So I got up and I go work out. Now, here's what's funny. I walk into the gym. First day I get there, I see the whole 1990-91 Bulls championship team. I said, man, these guys too old to be hooping. What are they out there doing? I said, man, I'm looking at Big Bill Winnington and Will Perdue. I'm like, what is going on? But it was good to get out there because they pros, and no matter how old you get as a pro, you just get craftier, man. You might be slower, but your game is crafty and smooth. And so, man, it was so great being there day in and day out. And of course, as the college season would begin to end, as the NBA season would begin to end, guys who didn't make the playoffs, they started showing up, and all of a sudden, Penny Hardaway is in the gym. Chris Webber is in the gym. I remember one particular time, this 17-year-old kid who shows up, about 6'9", 240, named LeBron James, shows up in the gym. I'm like, who is that dude? I'm like, that dude is, I said, he in high school? Like, oh my goodness.
Built like an NFL linebacker.
Oh my, just huge. But you saw the youngness in his face, and you go like, you sure he's okay? Because his body didn't match his face. It was like, man, this is a grown man body here. But that's probably one of the best experiences in my life. And this is what I got out of it, even though I had gotten hurt again. And that actually kind of really pushed me into the ministry at that point. I knew it once I got hurt again that God was calling me to do something different in my life. One of the things I knew coming out of that situation, I knew I was good enough to play in the pros. Because, man, I'm going to tell you, I was handling it. I mean, I was playing extremely well, in that little session. So it was, and I mean, I was getting a call every day to the point where I remember, because Mike's so competitive, he only likes to win, and he only counts how many times you win. Not okay, how well you played. He'll look at you and say, yeah, but how many games did you win? So the teams, we will always be against each other, and my teams would destroy his team. So about 3 weeks into playing, next thing I know, I'm on Jordan's team for the rest of the time we're down there because he's like, I'm tired of this losing. But, that's one of my things that I get to hold on to and cherish, that, hey, I had the opportunity, man, to play with some NBA greats.
And not just that, like you said, you were able to play with them and play at a high level and felt like you belong and like you weren't out of place. And I know, like, for somebody that, dealt with injuries and, it didn't exactly plan out probably the way you wanted to, that kind of feeling to know, like, hey, look, I could have definitely done this if it all went well. Like, that's got to feel incredible. You know what I mean? Because then it just, everybody hates doubt. You know what I mean? And you don't have any doubt,
No.
Even if you didn't play, you very well could have played and could have held your own.
And that's the the answer to the question you asked me. Am I comfortable where I'm at right now?
Yeah.
In terms of my life, man, absolutely. Because
that's
one of the things that has happened in the course of being a part of Hoop Dreams, getting the opportunity to go back out for it. And here's one aspect of the story that a lot of people don't even know about that NBA thing. When I missed the opportunity to go work out with the Wizards, the Chicago Bulls called me in. Now, this was right around the time that Jay Williams had got hurt. And, man, I went in there and I shot the lights out of that thing. I mean, I was just handling the ball, playing my business. I got home that evening, had a temperature of 105 degrees.
Jesus.
Don't know where it came from. And literally, because the Bulls wanted me to be on their practice squad, because literally what they said was, hey, Will, we got some guaranteed contracts, but we won't put you on our practice team because, if somebody get hurt, man, we're going to pull you right in. And but of course, with the fever, I never got an opportunity to go back because those are the type of situations, if you don't answer and go back immediately, they kind of move on.
Yeah.
So I had a very small window, and it took me a week to recover from the sickness.
That's unfortunate.
My favorite part of that story, and Michael Jordan fans are going to hate this, is that after losing and losing, he decided to create a super team and just get the guys.
I won't say we was a super team because one of the things you recognize when you play with Jordan is that you gotta have a tough skin. You gotta have that that ability to go out there and hold your own. But you also recognize that it's still Jordan's team, so you gotta give Jordan the basketball.
So my question is this: so before he comes back in 2001, and I actually saw his first game with the Wizards in Washington. It was right after 9/11. And I remember that they had all the guys out in court who, like, some of the guys were from the Pentagon that survived the Pentagon thing, and then they'd have a player next to him. Mm-hmm. And when they got to the guy that was with Jordan, you couldn't even hear anything. It was so loud you couldn't even hear anything. But I remember before that he came back, before 2001, he came back a little bit out of shape. And one of the things was that in these pickup games, he got hurt. He bruised some ribs or cracked some ribs or something. Mm-hmm. And I was curious if you were there the day that he got hurt.
Yeah, I was there.
Okay,
I was there.
Because rumor has it, and I subscribe to this rumor, him and Ron Artest got into a tussle.
Oh, no.
To the ground.
No, I've heard that rumor too. No, that wasn't it. He took a nasty elbow from a big guy. That's what threw it out. Interesting enough, people keep saying that Ron Artest was there, but Ron Artest never was there.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't even at the workouts. Mostly the guys who were there were a lot of Carolina guys. Stackhouse, Rasheed Wallace. These were Jordan's inner circle folks who was there. Or you had to know somebody to get into here. You wasn't just, showing up to Michael Jordan's place and getting in and talking about I'm ready to hoop. That just wasn't happening. Because there wasn't that very many of us in there. Probably the most on any given day, 20 guys. Now, right. I will say this. Here's what's the most fascinating thing out of that. I'm not a rich guy, but I remember pulling up. I thought I had a decent, nice car. I pull up to the parking lot, man, there had to be at least $1 billion worth of cars. Lamborghini, Rolls Royce. I was like, what? Where is this at?
Wow.
I remember a story. because Michael Jordan was a tremendous trash talker. Everybody knows that. And so was Gary Payton. Gary Payton was a big one. And I guess there was a story that Gary Payton and Jordan had kind of gotten into a little bit of a back and forth back in like 97-ish or so. And I think Gary Payton threw something at Michael Jordan to the effect of, he's like, you know what, man? He goes, I don't even need to listen to you. I just got 2 Ferraris or something like that. And Michael Jordan said, where'd you get them from? Because I'll buy the dealership tomorrow.
Well, I tell you one even greater than that. I remember when with Gary Payton and Jordan, Gary Payton again, they was at a restaurant and he was like, Mike, I'm coming up like you. I'm balling. I got all this and I got all that and I got these cars and all that. And Jordan just looks at him and said, yeah, but you pay for yours. I get mine for free.
That's awesome. God.
So this section, we actually, like I said, we asked fans what they wanted to ask you, and these are some of the questions that we got through social media. People had to ask questions. The first one I have here is from Carl Doucette. He runs the Manchester Basketball Association here in New Hampshire. It's a great league. I told him I'd give him a shout-out for the league because I played in the league for a long time. He's got a lot of different divisions, and it's just really fun. He's very big on sportsmanship. If you're not a good sport, you can't play there. It doesn't matter how good you are. He wants good sports there. And so there's some really competitive leagues. Those are the ones that get a little bit more heated. But his first question was, what modern-day player reminds you the most of yourself?
Oh, wow. Wow. Whew. Man, that's a tough question because I was hard-nosed. I played defense, but I could shoot the lights out of that thing. Wow. Let me think. Modern-day player.
So I know back in the movie they compared you to Isaiah a lot, but obviously he's back in the 80s.
Right.
I think the modern-day Isaiah was probably Chris Paul, but I don't know if –
Yeah, I think Chris Paul is the modern-day Isaiah. Absolutely. Man, that's so tough because the league isn't the same anymore. Like, even for me, I kind of thought of myself like as a different type of player. Like even the reason why like I wore number 22. A lot of people think, man, you wore 22 because you was trying to get close to Jordan number without wearing Jordan's number. No, I actually chose 22 because of Andrew Toney, who used to play for the Philadelphia 76ers. I used to love his game. I was like, he could shoot, he was tough, he could jump. I was like, man, that dude, and he played with Dr. J. I was like, wow. But modern day player, wow. I'm going to have to come back to that one.
So his second question he throws out there is, what's better about basketball 30 years after you played it in high school, and what's worse about it now in 2020? Like, what would you say, hey, this has improved, but this has gotten worse?
I think what's gotten worse about the game of basketball in high school is that high school coaches don't have as much authority as they used to have anymore. They can't tell kids what to do, where to go, because right now parents are so involved in sports now. It's difficult, I think, for coaches to coach. I think what's gotten better is the fact that athletes now are so much more capable of displaying their talent. I mean, you see a kid now, you can instantly look at him and go like, oh man, that kid, wow, he's a pro. Like when I first saw Derrick Rose play, I was like, oh, he's a pro. I knew immediately that kid was a pro. So I see that now. Like even the kid who plays for Sacramento now, the point guard, what is his name?
De'Aaron Fox.
De'Aaron Fox. Like when I saw De'Aaron Fox play, he's from the Houston area, probably about an hour from us. But my boys used to play against him in high school. And I watched De'Aaron Fox hit 50-footers like it was nothing. I mean, I said, that kid's a pro. And lo and behold, he goes to Kentucky 1 year, he's done. He probably could have went straight out of high school to the pros. He was that good.
So before we move on real quick, so I would say a better shooting Marcus Smart. Are we okay with that? Or
Marcus Smart
did shoot 37% from three.
If you take away the antics.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I wasn't like that type of guy. Like, I wasn't plus there was an element to my game where I would say I was probably more athletic than Marcus Smart. Because I mean, in my own mind, I thought I had a piece of Jordan in me too. So I had the big hands. I can grab the ball right off the bounce and dunk it in. So I love that aspect of the game. But in terms of that hard-nosed, get-in-your-face defense like Marcus Smart, yeah, that was me. But I thought I shot it a little bit better than Marcus Smart too.
Okay.
Particularly in high school.
Yeah. So how different do you think life would have been without Hoop Dreams?
I think life would have been completely different if I'm just being honest. I mean, Hoop Dreams opened up doors that probably would have not been opened. I mean, the things that I've done, the places that I have gone. I mean, hey, right now, man, I'm on Infinity Sports because of Hoop Dreams, you know. So it is Hoop Dreams has not only become a huge part of my life, but I can really say in many regards, in many respects, it has been the driving force in my life. Now, I have not been kind of like my counterpart, Arthur Agee. Like, I haven't been out there like, hoop dreams, but like I'm doing that more now. Like, you guys are probably in the last 25 years, probably only my 10th interview, you know. So I'm doing that more now and, you know, putting myself back out there more. But Hoop Dreams definitely, man, has opened up every door that I've walked into.
That's amazing.
So that question came from Patrick James Morris. Next question comes from John Auberton. This is Sully, right?
Yeah. Now, are you still playing? How often are you balling if you're still playing? You still got them hops? You still dunking? What's up, man?
Well, here's what's interesting about that. 2016, I officially retired from the game of basketball, and I'm going to tell you why. But I'm going to tell you about my 2016. My 2016, I was invited back to play in the St. Joe's alumni game. Man, I went in there, man. I mean, actually, I played phenomenal. It was great to go back in there and play, see all these guys I played against and older guys and guys after me. So it was just phenomenal to be there. That same year, Marquette was celebrating 100 years, and I went back and played in that alumni game. And at that moment, my knees said, that's it.
We're done.
That's it. There's no more. And the proof is that November of 2019 and May of this year, November 2019, I had my first complete knee surgery, replacement surgery. And then May of this year, I had the other knee done, complete knee surgery. So in terms of basketball, that's over.
We done, huh?
You know, I'm barely getting there on the elliptical.
Well, so's Wayne, but that's for different reasons.
Oh, yeah. I can still go out there, hit a couple threes, and then get out of breath and come back.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think I can do that. Like I tell people now, if I do play, I'm playing offense on both ends.
Yeah, we're playing horse. We'll sit there and play around the world. We can play that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't played defense in 25 years, so it's all good. All right, so Silk Cozart, I don't know if you – so Silk Cozart was in the movie Blue Chips. He was in the movie White Men Can't Jump.
Yes, absolutely.
He is a friend of the show. We had him on a little while back, and he actually just recently did a basketball documentary. I think it was just called Basketball, and it's about the history of the game, and in particular the history of the game and then race relations and how it was all affected, and how, for him, basketball was always a safe haven because he didn't feel any sort of race when he was on the court. It was just off the court is when he would feel it. But anyway, Silk submitted a couple of questions because I told him you're going to be on. He said, yeah, I got some questions for him. So his first question, he said, how involved were you in the production of the movie? I guess in terms of I'm sure not as much as like cutting the film, but in terms of telling them when they can videotape, things like that.
We were heavily involved with that. I think when it initially started, they were kind of there every day. And then, of course, like all documentaries, once money was getting low, they would, try to pick and choose the days they would come. But if we thought something was important, they would show up and they would be there. In terms of the post-production, what they would do is they would bring us in and say, hey, is this accurate? Did this happen? do we need to say this differently? Or they say, hey, we want to put this in here. It might be tough. Are you okay with it? So a lot of that, we were a part of those productions. And as a matter of fact, I remember when they first bought us the movie, I think it was about 6 hours long. My first question was, man, who's going to watch a 6-hour movie? But yeah, they really did bring us in, but not to the point where we would mess with the integrity of what they were doing. It was more so for accuracy. Is this correct? Did it happen this way? And they also let us know, because there are times when, I probably said something, my freshman year that it blended, with my sophomore year, or I said something my junior year that they probably put it in my freshman year. So we were part of that saying, hey, no, man, I said that when I was a junior. I wasn't thinking like that as a freshman. So it was good that they had us in there like that. And they did it for both Arthur and myself.
And he then asks, what wasn't in the film? They said they had 6 hours when they brought it to you. They taped over 500 hours. What wasn't in the film that you could talk about that you thought, maybe could have been in there?
I think one of the biggest things that isn't in the film is that you don't see all of a sudden, my daughter shows up. It's like, whoa, where'd she come from?
We kind of know where she came from.
Yeah, I think we know how that happens, but...
And I think the other things that you didn't see a whole lot was like how Arthur's mom was heavily involved. My mother really just chose to say, hey, no, let this just be about him. I'll do some things. I'll do interviews and that stuff like that, but stay focused on him. So those kind of things wasn't shown. And then there was things like, conversations that Curtis and I had that where, we just wasn't getting along. We wasn't talking. And then you don't see us patch it up and work it out kind of things. You don't see a lot of that. They focus a lot more, I would say, particularly basketball early on and with me. And it was always, I think with Arthur, always more about the life story from the very beginning to the end. But I think the first 2 years, it was really basketball with me. And then once, adversity shows up with the knee surgeries and all these other things, then you start seeing the human aspect that they focused on at that point. So you don't see a lot of my personal things I was dealing with in the first 2 years of the film that they just didn't use.
That was one of my other favorite scenes with the Marquette in your living room, aside from offering the full scholarship regardless of injury, is I liked when Curtis asked, he said, how many guys you recruiting at the guard position? And they said, oh, we got like 5, 6, 7 guys. And they said, but you tell us you're not looking at any more schools, we're not looking at any more guards.
Hey, you know what? I give Kevin O'Neal this, man. He was a straight shooter. He was a straight shooter. And one of the things I kind of, it's interesting about this, I actually know the other guards that they were looking at because we all were being looked at by the same schools. It was Marquette, Michigan, and Kansas. And so at that particular time, I was kind of like one on the list of the 3 schools. After me was a guy by the name of Calvin Rayford. And then after him was a guy by the name of Eric Snow. So when I told Kansas and Michigan State that I wasn't going to go, then Eric Snow signs with Michigan State. Calvin Rayford ends up going to Kansas. And, of course, we know how it turned out for Eric Snow. So,
well, I remember thinking, too, like, all right, this guy could have ended up at Michigan instead of Jalen Rose. You could have been in that Fab Five special. But Jalen Rose and Chris Webber were tight. Like, there was no way they were breaking those two up. So.
No, they yeah. Even though what's interesting, I haven't talked to Chris in a while, but when we were at camp and when we do get to, we laugh a little bit about it, is that in the movie they actually have us talking about it. They just didn't show this either. We were actually talking about going to Michigan State together. That's what's crazy. But then he ended up going to Michigan.
Now, I read the book Fab Five by Mitch Albom, which they kind of did the documentary on. And in the book, I remember it saying something to the effect that Chris was going to go to Michigan State. He's a big Magic Johnson fan. Obviously, he really thought about going there. And I think what ended up happening was he went there for a visit, and they got some footage of him wearing a Michigan State sweatshirt. And they tried to bust Michigan State for almost like kind of like some recruiting things, or they tried to hold that over his head, like, hey, if you don't come to Michigan State, we're going to say that you took the sweatshirt or something like that. There was something underneath of it.
I heard about that, but I'm not sure all of the. But it wouldn't surprise me because I mean that's college basketball.
Exactly. These scumbags will do anything.
The last question that Silk had, he said, "How did your friends, family receive the movie when it came out? Like, how did you guys feel about it?"
What's funny is I think early on I was a little subconscious because I remember my wife now was my girlfriend at the time. We were at the theaters. They show the previews before the movie come on. Then all of a sudden, Hoop Dreams comes across the thing, and we're like, "Oh my goodness, this thing is going to be in the theaters." So, my family was excited. My friends were excited because they had gone to different theaters and they had saw the trailer in the movies and of course at this particular time I think Above the Rim had just came out because we was all running to go see Above the Rim, and Hoop Dreams was one of the trailers that played before it. So
that's awesome.
It was a moment in life, man, that probably was just surreal and just. I mean, who would have thought that Arthur Agee and William Gates would have been, two kids from our backgrounds, our community, participating in this movie that had become not just nationally known, but world renowned and known. And it was just like, I'm lost for words, actually.
I mean, we can't not say this. You got a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's fucking hard to do. Excuse my language. I apologize. That's hard to do, man. That's tough.
98% on Rotten Tomatoes. We're in the National Archives.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the top 100 movies ever. I mean, it's this
ranked
is like
extremely high on IMDb. All of it.
Yeah.
It's an incredible movie. I'm telling you, it's an incredible movie.
And here's what's always amazing to me. Here we are celebrating 25 years, and we're still talking about Hoop Dreams.
Yeah,
That's phenomenal to me.
Well, you mentioned the preview showing during Above the Rim, and I want to say that's where I first saw it for the first time. I went and saw Above the Rim in the theater, and I still own it. I own like every basketball movie. And when the preview came out for Hoop Dreams, the scene that I still remember to this day, seeing it in the preview and still almost smirking when I see it in the film, is when you're going through the recruiting letters and they say there's gold at the end of the rainbow and $500 for you. And you open the envelope and you go, oh. And so now they didn't say what school this was from, so you're not throwing anyone under the bus. But did somebody send you $500?
No. You know what? You know what's interesting, man? I can honestly say I was always kind of afraid of that. I had talked to guys who got money and it didn't work out well for them, and not because they had gotten caught, but the situation that they had gotten themselves caught up in. And I always steered away from that. I didn't want to get money. I was afraid, to be honest with you, because I seen guys. It was like I say, they'd get the money and they would promise tickets, and when they didn't give them tickets up, people would call the office. They're like, "Hey, he promised me my tickets. I gave him this amount of money." All those things are violations. It was never worth it to lose the scholarship over.
Well, especially because we mentioned Above the Rim, which is why it's so funny that ties in, is there's a scene Above the Rim right at the end when Tupac is talking to Dwayne Martin, and he says, "What do you think Georgetown's going to think about those gifts you took?" He says, "Check it. You're not going to Georgetown or anywhere if we don't win the championship."
That's right. Man, it's amazing how powerful that movie was. I mean, if people really sit down and watch Above the Rim, between that and of course, Spike Lee's He Got Game. I mean, those movies are, man. Which I was going to even say, man, I thought you left out He Got Game and Love and Basketball. I thought those would have been in your top movies too, though.
Yeah, it's tough because there's only 5 spots, so it's kind of like when I make my top
Only five
I make
spots.
my top 10 NBA players. It's usually a list of 22 guys. I got to cut down to 10. And so I feel
right.
like with basketball movies, like I said, I felt like Love and Basketball is one of my all-time favorites. It's a remote drop for me. I watch it no matter where it is. And then, like you said, He Got Game, actually, I didn't love He Got Game. It was a different role for Denzel to see him in that kind of almost like a villain-type role, even though he wasn't really a villain. But so it was tough for me to watch that movie. And as much as I liked Ray Allen's character, I don't know. Like, the movie itself, I just didn't.
You know what's interesting about He Got Game? He Got Game is a mixture of my story and Arthur's story combined.
Okay.
So when you get your look at it again, it's because believe it or not, we were actually supposed to do the movie with Spike Lee, and at that particular time, everything was going well. Then something that happened with the producers of Hoop Dreams and Spike Lee's people, where it just fell apart, and then he came up with He Got Game, and actually Nelson George was writing the script for that, so it just kind of just fell apart. But it's so
now that I think about it, I can see the Denzel character being Bo Agee.
Yes.
I can see the way he pushed him, almost kind of like Curtis pushed you. Right?
Yes.
Kinda, I can definitely see that. So, although I would have to say, if you or Arthur was Ray Allen, it'd probably be you would be the Ray Allen.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm saying. It was like a mixture. How Denzel played a little bit of both of our, Bo and Curtis. It was a little bit of both of us with Ray Allen. Where, like for example, the good kid, but in a different type of environment, trying to keep it together. But yet being exposed to stuff that just draw you in. That you just like, oh, okay. And then, remember the scene with Ray Allen playing against Denzel? Hey, that's Arthur and his dad, going at each other.
Yeah, so that was the last question that I had, and I really, really, really appreciate having you on. I actually want you to take a second to talk about Hoop Dreams apparel and stuff, because, again, I think that the logo is fantastic. I want our fans who are watching to obviously order some of this stuff. I know I'm definitely going to go through and see. I like the logo, so I'll probably get like a hat or something with that logo on it. And I actually had some advice for you, whether you take it or not, it's up to you, but I was thinking, trying to get that brand up and running is obviously, your kids play. I know that your youngest is still in high school, or is he in college now?
He's still in high school, senior right now.
Yeah. So I was thinking, like, kind of almost reaching out to the high schools, because you have that connection, and being like, hey, what if Hoop Dreams Apparel, did the jerseys, and you could have jerseys that have the HD on it, but the school name, and you could actually even branch out. We'll do the baseball jerseys, football jerseys, and it really gets that Hoop Dreams name out there. They still have to pay for them, but maybe because they know you, they get a discount, and you get the name on the jersey when they travel around. So.
I like that. Absolutely. Listen, man, I take all advice. Listen, one thing you can't pay for enough is advice. So no, I take it all. I appreciate it. That's a great idea, because the whole concept of the Hoop Dreams, because I hadn't been out there much, and I just felt like the timing was right. Been having all these ideas and things going on in my head, and then of course with the logo, I wanted to make sure that 22 has always been synonymous with me, even like my Twitter handles or my Instagram handle. It's Hoop 22 Dreams. So I wanted to just make it in there, but I wanted it to be, tough enough that it could stand on its own outside of just saying Hoop Dreams as well too. But obviously Hoop Dreams is the catch. So we are hd-22.com. Also, as a website, hdclothing.com. And on there, man, there's some great stories that I got up there. Like there's a story, Hoop Dreams 25 years later. There's another story, Hoop Dreams, the first reality show. There's also a story up there where my son and what his college basketball experience was about. So really just trying to draw people into the story of Hoop Dreams from the past all the way up to now, and reach that younger generation as well. That's why you see some of the themes that I have going on, like even the shirt behind me representing, the Space Jam theme, or I have a Bel Air theme, really taking it back to when we was coming up, the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, and the crazy kind of colors that he used to wear and stuff like that, and really just trying to make it funky, make it fresh, but at the same time, it's athletic apparel too that you can wear when you just want to chill too. You want to you just hanging out, you want to look good. So, but again, appreciates everybody's support. So go check it out, hd-22.com. Go take a look, and you know what I'm gonna do too. If your folks, if they go on there tonight and they use, I'm gonna put the word Infinity on there. They put in Infinity, they'll get a 10% discount.
Nice.
All right.
There you go. You hear it, folks. Get up on there. I got to get my hat tonight. I'm going to have to get that shirt tonight then, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been really, really great. Obviously, Silk was a great guest. I think you've been a phenomenal guest to have on and talk about, everything. And I couldn't tell you how much I appreciate it. It's been really, really cool, especially, like I said, you're a little bit older than me. So, when that movie came out, I was in my sophomore year, kind of playing basketball. And so, to me, you're almost like a celebrity. I'm talking to William Gates, so it's kind of cool to actually be able to talk with you.
I appreciate that, man. A little grayer these days, but I appreciate that.
I'm not going to lie, man. The black with the gray looks dope, though. I'm not going to lie, man. It looks fresh, bro. I'm thinking about dyeing mine gray now. I'm dead ass, man.
Listen, I keep it because I'm hoping it makes me look smarter.
There you go. You got that salt and pepper thing going on, man. It's in style now, bro. Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us, William. Really, honestly, it was a pleasure. You were a great interview. You're a great guy. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
I don't have a Kenny image today, so everyone's just going to have to deal with a different image. We have the image from the interview, and Kenny Smith is still going to send us home here.